Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 106 today for the British Grand Prix in Season 6, and today is a very big episode, because at the end of this one, we've got the contract renegotiation for our teammates, and as you guys know, for the last few episodes, we've been debating about whether to swap out Lewis Hamilton. We signed him this season to our Vodafone Mercedes team, you know, with the kind of hope of reinvigorating him, but he just hasn't done that. If you're unaware, if you've not been following along in this series, ever since Season 3 of this career mode, Hamilton has not been the Hamilton we know in real life. He has not won a race since that season, I believe. He's just been horrendous, basically. He's out of form, and the game has just continued that. There's no way we can kind of resurrect him in a sense, kind of, because, you know, I've tried everything. You know, we've got the facilities in the team to boost his stats. He's 100 rated, but as we've seen on this game, there's quite a nice, unique thing that in the background, it seems like once the AI build momentum, they can build on that and continue to win races, and vice versa. When they start to do poorly and get a lot of bad luck in many races in a row, it's very hard for them to get out that cycle. And so, basically, in this version of this F1 universe of ours, in our career mode, Hamilton is basically he's on his last stint of his career. He's basically on the way out. He's not got much else to give, and for us, specifically in this season, he's not got a lot to give to our team. You can see very clearly in the Constructors' Championship that even though I'm leading the way in the drivers, I am going to have a very tough task of trying to beat Ferrari in the Constructors to try and win that championship, because both Ferraris are so consistent this year. They're 2-3 in the championship. Even Mercedes are not too far behind us, and Verstappen just had an okay result, and him and Gasly are pretty high up, whereas Hamilton's way down there in P11 in the standings. So at the end of this episode, I think we are going to definitely be looking at our options of who we're going to be signing. But before we get to that, we have a whole episode to get through. It's the British Grand Prix, the home GP of not only myself, but Hamilton and also our team. So maybe Hamilton can have one decent race to maybe bow out to in the team. I don't know, probably not, knowing this game, knowing him in this career mode series. But let's get into it then as we go on in towards qualifying. We did get another extra engine upgrade, I must say. So that's pretty decent. But you can see it's very, very close between all the engines now, especially between Mercedes, Ferrari, Haas, and ourselves. But Ferrari definitely brought some upgrades because they weren't this high, and Racing Point have slipped down the order. So Ferrari looked pretty strong last episode. Obviously, Leclerc went on to win the race. There may be quite a strong force coming into this one. Silverstone on this game has always been tricky. The AI are so quick around here compared to previous games, and it's been a bit of a struggle at times, especially when there's some rain involved, and there is a forecast for some rain at the end of this Saturday session. But at the moment, it's all sunny skies, and it's going to be plain sailing getting through into Q2. But then into that session, already you can see the overcast conditions are coming. The rain is on the way, and I think it's going to be coming just in time for the top 10 shootout. But so that means for now, it's just up to us trying to get through into the top 10 and seeing who's going to not make the cut, essentially, because, you know, there's so many teams now fighting for the top 10 positions. You've got maybe 14 drivers aiming for 10 positions, so 4 unlucky people are going to get knocked out, and we need to make sure we're not one of those 4. It's easy to do maybe at a track like this. Of course, we've had some horrendous qualifying sessions around here in the early part of this career. Remember back to Season 1 and Season 2, both calamities, but this time we're through top of the session. It does start raining at the end of our second flyer, so we just abandon that lap. We don't need to do another one, but the likes of Lando Norris knocked out. You've got Albon knocked out in the Racing Points. The Racing Points were looking so quick last episode. Albon did have to recover from outside the top 10, I think, in that one, remember, so he might have to do another comeback drive. But surprising to see Norris out there in Q2 outside the top 10. He was obviously looking good at Austria until he had a DNF, so the kind of misery continues for all of our fellow Brits. But here we are then into the top 10 shootout, and it is very wet and wild. You can see the rear end stepping out as we go through what is normally a flat out turn 1 into turn 2. Had to lift off there, try and balance the car as nicely as we can, and maybe these conditions are going to favour the Red Bull team, who have been really lacking in speed. I believe both Red Bulls made it through into this top 10 shootout, which is surprising because even the dry, they've been pretty dismal as of late. So maybe, I don't know, it's a very different circuit to Austria. It's very much about downforce around here compared to the power unit around Austria. So maybe the balance has shifted a bit more towards Red Bull, and maybe that's why we're seeing Racing Point being a bit slower. Speaking of slower though, at at the moment, I'm not looking too good. We just did 2 laps in a row on the same set of tyres with a bit more fuel, and I'm only P8. We're down to P10 now, and it's the last 3 minutes of the session, and this is my final flyer on a brand new set of intermediates. We fill the car up with just 1 lap's worth of fuel for the flying lap, and let's see what we can do. We're getting back 3/10 up to now, nearly a second through the last few corners, so the track evolution is massive here, and here we come across the line, skating across a bit with the rear end squirming, but it was purple there, and it is going to be the fastest of all, pole position at the British Grand Prix. That is the first time I've got pole at Silverstone, and this is the first time that I think ever in one single season I've got pole 3 different times. I'm not a qualifier on the F1 game. You guys very much know that through the history of many F1 games. I'm not a good driver over 1 lap pace. I do most of my business on the race day, on Sunday. So this just shows how good of a car we have this season compared to our competitors over 1 lap. Even I'm able to pull out the time, and not having a teammate that's maybe up to scrap means that it's just me up there. I mean, Hamilton is qualified P4, so even he has managed to do well in this qualifying session, showing how good the car is, because we know how slow he has been over the course of this season. But also at the same time, it's also just, you know, a pinch of salt because it is intermediate. So you can see the field spread's massive here now. Stroll's down in P10. You've got Giovinazzi and Leclerc way down there, really, in comparison, you know, checkerboarding the 2 Red Bull cars. And remember, just last episode, Red Bull were both knocked out in Q2. So definitely Silverstone has definitely changed the pecking order a bit, and the top 10 being in the wet has just made things very interesting. But in the end, some things never change. Myself and Pierre Gasly at the sharp end there, him in the Works Mercedes car, us in our Vodafone Mercedes car on the front row together. Let's see how Sunday goes and see how Hamilton does in potentially his final race for the team.
Welcome along then to Great Britain and the Great Silverstone Circuit for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6 mile long Silverstone Circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and Copse flat out. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's start by getting your take on Daniel Ricciardo. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's the owner driver in pole position then, and it's Pierre Gasly in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Sainz, Giovinazzi, Ocon, Stroll and Valtteri Bottas, Norris, Russell, Alexander Albon and De Vries, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Nobuharu Matsushita and Nicholas Latifi, Aitken, Giotto, Magnussen and Mick Schumacher. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So it's all sunny skies then for Sunday. No rain is going to get in this way. So we might see a bit of a shift in the race, because I think like a lot of people definitely got caught out with that wet weather in Q3. Mainly the Ferraris and the Red Bulls looked a little bit too good if we look at the previous races that they've done in the dry. It's going to be quite a straightforward strategy though. 1 stop from soft to medium. We've been recommended the hard tyre because the My Team FOM car definitely has a little bit, it's definitely a little bit harder on its tyres than the other actual official F1 cars I find in this career mode. Over the course, if we look at back over previous episodes, we're going to go for the mediums because I think we stretch the soft period just like by a lap or 2. We should be good. And to be fair, I think we've not been too bad this season on the mediums, especially as a race tyre. So let's see how that goes. But we're on pole. We're in the best position ever for our home race. It's a very unique position to be in. I've never had this before. It's been some time since I've been on pole at my home race. So let's go out there, try and do a decent job, and maybe behind me Hamilton can do a decent effort for one last outing maybe in our team. So here we go then, from the front row on pole position, Gasly alongside me. We go to 5 red lights to the British Grand Prix, and we're waiting and waiting, and the lights are out. We're on the way, and it's a decent getaway for us. A little bit of wheel spin, so we go defensive to the inside, but turn 1 is ours. Gasly, though, is right there behind us, tucked up in the gearbox. We go very defensive to the inside as we go into the village section. A little bit too deep, though, and Gasly's able to dance his way round the outside. He's found some momentum. Hamilton's there as well. He's actually had a good start, Hamilton, in P3, ahead of Verstappen in P4 on the medium tyres. But Gasly shoots past us, and the Mercedes cars are winding up. Look at this speed here. The works Mercedes are showing as we have a bit of contact with Verstappen, get a little bit over-aggressive there, I will admit, but kind of defending as hard as we can to at least maintain P2, and we actually help out Hamilton there as he's able to hold P3. But look at Leclerc going the long way round through Luffield. A fantastic move this will be on the outside now. Cobbs, he's going to pull it off. What a move there by the Ferrari man. In the background, Giovinazzi tries to get the Red Bull of Carlos Sainz, and now Sainz actually attacks Verstappen. Verstappen, he started the mediums. For some reason, he qualified on mediums in Q2, and he's paying the price right now because Sainz has just gone around the outside of him in the middle of Max and Beckett. So at the moment, he's really not the tyre to be on. As you can see, Ocon tries to get Giovinazzi. Verstappen comes back at Sainz. So even though maybe those tyres aren't the best, maybe he's just showing how bad the Red Bull is these days in dry conditions. But although this may be a long-term play for Verstappen, right now at the moment at the start of this race, it's really not the race tyre to be on, as that Red Bull's able to actually defend quite well and just slow everyone down. Those guys already losing about a second now to the top pack, and it's kind of nose to tail between Ocon, Giovinazzi, Verstappen and Sainz there. Meanwhile, back behind, Racing Point also not looking as quick as they did last episode. As I said, it's a higher downforce circuit, so maybe that's where their one weakness is in terms of R&D, and you can see Stroll being out-muscled by Valtteri Bottas. Comes back at him though, and Albon's there in the background as well as Lando Norris, but here comes Albon. Lando Norris tucked up behind, and instead it's nearly 3 wide between Albon, Bottas and Lance Stroll. This time though, it's Albon who's going to try and get the jump on Stroll round the outside of Luffield like Leclerc did to Verstappen. It's going to be a fantastic little cheeky move there by the Thai Brit, and he's up the ordering and trying to attack Valtteri Bottas now. But up the road then, like I said, Ocon chasing after. You've got Giovinazzi, Verstappen, Sainz, and then you've got Leclerc, who's now on the back of Hamilton for the fight for P3, and I'm still very much on the back of Pierre Gasly trying to pressurise him, but Leclerc looking very rapid indeed. And so once DRS is activated, maybe we might see Leclerc getting up into P3, but once that's activated, we ought to have a good chance ourselves of attacking Gasly. So, you know, some things never change in Formula 1. It very much might be a 1-2-3 of Gasly, myself and Leclerc, the kind of usual 3 suspects as it has been at the top of the standings this season, and indeed the kind of last couple of seasons of this entire career mode series. The lap number 3 now, DRS is activated on this lap, and we've got plenty of ERS ults to use on the exit of that section. We get a great launch here, and we're wheel to wheel, and we power past Pierre Gasly to take the lead back of the British Grand Prix. But Gasly for sure is looking up for it, as well as Leclerc indeed, and so this is going to be a real big fight. I would include Hamilton in there, but just knowing how he's performed this season and the last few seasons, I don't expect him to remain in the top 4 fight here. Meanwhile, one man who is making a charge forward is Antonio Giovinazzi, overtaking Verstappen, and then he goes down the inside, that is, of Sainz as well. Giovinazzi, 2 moves in 1 straight to 1 corner. Fabulous stuff, showing Ferrari, I think they definitely brought upgrades this race. You saw on the engine chart, they weren't that high, like I said. I think definitely you can tell they've got an engine buff here with the upgrade they brought this weekend for the R&D, as Leclerc tries to find a way past Hamilton, doesn't quite do it. Meanwhile, we're defending against Gasly, very much so, into Stowe, and he can't quite make a move yet. Leclerc keeping the pressure on Hamilton, and now here we go in the same place where Giovinazzi made a pass on the Red Bull. Leclerc tries to make a move on Hamilton, doesn't quite work though. Hamilton defends well. It's as if he's driving for his life, driving for his seat in a way here in P3. This is the best we've seen Lewis Hamilton drive in a long, long time in this career mode series, ironically. But in the end, I think Leclerc will get him. But here comes Gasly once again. Leclerc on the inside, but Gasly on the outside of us, and we go banging tyres, and he's got the position, but coming out, brake him round the outside into the chicane, left and then right, giving him some room, but also equally trying to push him as wide as we can on the left-hand side, and we scrape across onto the racing line to maintain P1 as we enter lap number 5. But there you go, Leclerc is in P3, and it is literally nose to tail between P1 to P4. Absolutely awesome. Into Village again, deep there, as we did on lap 1, and Gasly again finds himself on the outside there. He's so good. I mean, every AI is so good on this left-hander, on this slingshot onto this straight. I don't know what it is. They just pick up the traction so much quicker than I ever can. Don't know about any of the other you guys, but now into the next left-hander. We've had a shocker here. Leclerc has overtaken us. I tried to defend him and squeeze him. In doing so, I kind of offset myself. I went too deep into the next corner and just outbroke myself there. So really need to try and recompose, reconcentrate, because that was some pretty poor driving actually into that left-hander to make a mistake and go down to P3. So we've lost 2 positions then in the span of half a lap here. Hamilton under pressure from Giovinazzi. Meanwhile, Ocon has just dispatched of Verstappen, and also Giovinazzi actually is in the background there. He's actually on the back of Hamilton here. So Giovinazzi has wasted no time in making this a 5-way fight for the race lead maybe, but at the moment back to our POV, lap number 6, as we're trying to stay with the 2 ahead of us as we watch on. Leclerc making a move on the outside with DRS. Can the Mercedes though come back? Yes, he can at the apex of Stowe. Gasly comes back at him, but Leclerc just got the better exit, and we, oh my, almost make some massive contact. Little love tap there on Gasly. I'm surprised we didn't actually lose a bit of our front wing there. We're actually very lucky as it almost got brake checked by the Frenchman, but 4 laps later, lap number 10, it's all stalemate here. Leclerc and Gasly in. We continue on because I don't fancy doing the same strategy as them. I want to try something different, so we're going to go longer by 1 lap to try the overcut. Giovinazzi follows me in because from lap 6 to lap 10, that was the story basically. Leclerc got into the lead, and then pretty much it was like real F1. We're all just so equally matched with the dirty air and everything and the DRS train. We just couldn't make any leeway. I was kind of keeping up with Gasly within 1 second, but couldn't break anything and make a move, and neither could he on Leclerc. So they've come in. I've decided to stay out for one more lap. We may as well try something different, because if those guys get held up in traffic, maybe we have half a chance. And if those 2 fight, more importantly, on the exit of their pit stop, then maybe myself and Giovinazzi have a chance to jump them. So let's see. It's been a very good in lap there. 2 green sectors, so we had some tyre wear in there. It was just behind Gasly in the dirty air. It's very hard to sometimes do a good lap time when you're so close to another car, just like we see in real life Formula 1. So in some clean air in the in-lap, 2 green sectors, same for Giovinazzi I imagine, because he's stuck with us. So I am actually confident we may have a good chance here of at least getting in the middle of Gasly and Leclerc. Let's see. So we're in now for a set of medium tyres, yellow wall. Now in previous seasons these tyres have been a little bit iffy at the end of the race. Let's hope it's not the case this time. They're going to be consistent enough for us to get through to the end and have enough performance here, but I don't think anyone has tried to go to hard tyres. So we're all doing soft to mediums, apart from Verstappen, who has done the other way around. He'll be going from mediums to softs. But here we are, lap number 12, and look at that. We're out in P4 on the road, Giovinazzi P5, and we're both out ahead of Gasly and Leclerc. Gasly's overtaken Leclerc somewhere on track, so those 2 did fight, and the overcut has worked an absolute treat for myself and the Italian Giovinazzi. But now that means we've got 1 quick Ferrari behind us, and Giovinazzi with DRS open, going for the move. We try and squeeze him, but he's just got the overspeed there. The Ferrari, he's been so quick this race. You know, that double overtake he made on Mercedes and Red Bull was ridiculous off the back of this corner into the next one, and you can see why, because look at the exit he's got compared to me off Luffield. That's ridiculous. That's raucous. That's why he was able to make a double move on Verstappen and Sainz so easily. And actually, I'm struggling a little bit for pace right now. I need to try and find a groove on these medium tyres, because especially off Luffield, I'm getting such a poor exit for some reason. Even using ERS, deploying plenty of it. Gasly gets a good run. He's going to stick his nose in, and whilst Giovinazzi gets away from us all, we're fighting for P2, maybe even P3 as Leclerc comes through. What is this? What is going on here? These guys must have their engines turned up to the full max here. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're running rich mix as well at this stage of the GP, but DRS open, trying to come back at Leclerc. Gasly up into P2. Can we re-overtake Leclerc at least for P3 in this Grand Prix? It's slipping away from from us a little bit. We need to make sure we're within 1 second of these guys to make sure they don't pull away out of that DRS gap and, you know, just walk away with this race in a sense. But look at Leclerc fighting us so hard. Of course, we've been championship rivals in previous seasons, and there's been massive scraps with Leclerc in previous races, and this one is adding to them on lap 15. That was a real mega fight, but we are all now closing in on Giovinazzi. He did pull a gap, but we've reeled it back in with Gasly's help as well, and we've actually gotten away from Leclerc. Look at that, Leclerc losing some tyre pace on those mediums, maybe facing the same kind of tyre wear or kind of just tyre issues, not kind of biting in maybe as I was on the previous laps, as he's kind of falling away into the clutches of that man, Verstappen. Now, he is on softs, and look how close he is to all of us. He may be a dark horse in this race. Don't count him out. He was very slow in the first part, but he's come out of nowhere now. He's overtaken Hamilton. He's come back through to overtake all those other cars that did overtake him initially in stint 1, and he's P5, only 2.4 seconds behind Leclerc. And as we go on through this race then, myself and Gasly continue to pressurize Giovinazzi, but here goes Verstappen for the move on the inside in the same place where Leclerc overtook him in stint 1. Verstappen repays the favour and gets him back. So the long-term play for Verstappen is now paying dividends here. So he was very slow on those mediums, but this is why he went for that strategy maybe, because now he's lightning fast, as now Giovinazzi has made a big mistake into Stowe and allowed Gasly to get up into P1. Are the Ferraris imploding here in this race at Silverstone, because Leclerc has fallen away with some tyre wear? Maybe Giovinazzi is now facing that tyre wear or tyre issues, because that was a bad mistake for him. The Frenchman now leads the British Grand Prix. Can we make a move? Look how slow Giovinazzi is into Village. We're going to pounce down the inside. Let's go for it, and look how close it is on this angle here on the side pod. The one time this camera angle is actually useful to show you on the replay cameras, and we get Giovinazzi because he was so slow in turn 1. He just got no exit up the hill in towards Village, so we had to go for it, because if we didn't overtake him then, he would have slowed us up, because now we've got half a chance to try and chase after Gasly to still get the race win at our home race. And Verstappen is now lurking behind in P4, and I've got to say, Giovinazzi's not looking too quick now. Both Ferraris are not looking quick after starting so fast. Both of them in stint 1. They're definitely facing some tyre issues now, as Verstappen now goes very easily on the inside of Copse, and he's up into P3. It's a Mercedes 1-3. It's a Mercedes-powered 1-2-3. So even though Ferrari have brought engine upgrades this weekend, the Mercedes power unit reigns supreme at the moment at Silverstone. But here goes Leclerc now, maybe finding his feet, and the two Ferraris now fighting for P4 and 5. Leclerc won last race. This time he's just trying to get a few points to limit the damage in the championship, I guess, as he goes and scraps Giovinazzi into the last chicane. They're still side by side at this point, I can say, because look at that. There we go. You can see the front wing comes out of nowhere of that camera angle, and they're still going at it. So those two not even doing each other any favours, because those two squabbling so much has just given Verstappen a massive gap. I mean, look at it now. They've got a whole, nearly half a second there to Verstappen, and so it's definitely going to be a 1-2-3 Mercedes-powered podium. But in what order? In what order? Because Gasly's P1, myself P2, Verstappen, though, closing up rapidly on soft tyres. At the moment, we've gone green, green, green there, but it doesn't matter. Verstappen sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so despite us setting a personal best lap time here, Verstappen's looking quicker. We've only got 2 laps, though, so it's not long to go. We just need to hope we can hold out and use the DRS off Gasly to help us maintain P2 and maybe try a last minute, last lap thing for P1 maybe. But onto that last lap of the Grand Prix, Gasly's still very much in P1. Schumacher very awkwardly has to let us go in Magenta Beckett, and Luca Chiotto has actually crashed out at Magenta Beckett on the last lap there. How on earth has he done that? But blue flags were very awkward there for Mick Schumacher, and myself and Verstappen almost crashed into him. But here we are then in the last sector. We pull into Gasly. If there was one more lap, I feel like we could have maybe gone for a move at some point on Pierre Gasly, but it's just not meant to be. Can't get close enough, and we just use him in the end to maintain the P2. Gasly is going to win the British Grand Prix. We've run out of fuel. We run out of fuel on the line, but we still finish in P2, and it wouldn't have mattered because for some reason into Stowe, Verstappen got a 5-second penalty, so he ends another race with a 5-second penalty, and that's going to push him down the order because the Ferraris weren't that far behind. 9. So very interesting last lap there.
Well, they've done a brilliant job, I must say, under some intense pressure to take a well-earned victory here at the British Grand Prix. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
So yeah, there we are. Pierre Gasly has won the British Grand Prix and myself in P2. So the two men on the front row, surprise, surprise, finished in 1 and 2. But just the other way around, Gasly able to pip us. To be fair, he looked supremely quick at points in this race. And he was just more consistent. You know, everyone else was quicker at other points. But Gasly was just consistent that whole race. Whereas, you know, Giovinazzi, he was leading for a fair amount of laps here. But just fell away. Both Ferraris fell away, but the Ferraris got gifted because at the end of that thing, as I said, I don't know what happened. I think maybe it was due to the blue flags or yellow, I don't know. But Verstappen got a 5-second penalty for some reason. I don't know why, really, but he got one. And so he's fallen behind the two Ferraris in that race into P5. So he's going to be really annoyed with that. And Leclerc then gets promoted to a free podium. So shock horror. Once again, myself, Leclerc and Gasly at the forefront of Formula 1, as has been the case a lot of the time in this entire career mode series of ours, but we still lead the championship then by 5 points. Gasly, even with a win now, he's still 23 points behind us because that's his first win of the entire season, just showing you how, you know, consistent he's actually been so far to still be that high up in the standings. But he's gonna have to try maybe even get a second win of the season, or just try and hope that myself and Leclerc are down the order in the next few races if he wants to try and bridge that gap, because at the moment it's very much looking like myself v Leclerc for maybe the third time so far in this career mode series of ours. Because remember, we did obviously fight him directly for a championship in seasons 2 and 3. Obviously Leclerc winning out in season 2, myself season 3. So could this be the trilogy of myself v Charles Leclerc in this F1 2020 My Team career mode? Well, I guess we'll have to see. But constructors wise then, we actually go down the order because of that, because of the Mercedes cars both being up there and the Ferraris. So again, it just kind of drills home the whole point of, you know, we need to change out Hamilton, because in this kind of way, I will never win. We will never, as a team, we will never win the Constructors this season. And Ferrari and Mercedes, that will be the battle. So as much as I would have loved to have, you know, had that story of reinvigorating Hamilton after so many bad seasons, that's what I wanted to happen. It's just not happened. It's not been the fairy tale we, and maybe you guys at home, were hoping for this season. And so for the sake of our Constructors Championship, which we do care about in my team this year, on this year's game, because obviously it is my team, it says it in the name, so more than ever on previous F1 games, we care about the constructors as well as the drivers. And for the sake of our team, I think we need to change it. We need to sign someone else for the rest of the season. It's not an easy decision to make, but it's one we need to do. And we need to forget about the pedigree that Hamilton has in real life and just realize that in this game, in this series of ours, in our career mode save, he is just not up to the measure anymore for a top team, for a top drive. And for me, as is the case in real life, but in also this career mode save of ours, there is one driver that's yet to have a top drive for a team that has gone on to get podiums and race wins. And that is George Russell, because every other driver, Lando Norris, Alexander Albon, Lance Stroll, all the kind of other younger drivers that we kind of see, they've had drives, they've had cars that have actually gone on to win races. They themselves have won races and got podiums. But George Russell has yet to have that at all in our career mode save, just as he hasn't done in real life. And so I'm going to make everyone's dreams come true here. And we're going to go ahead and sign George Russell to replace Lewis Hamilton. Not at the Mercedes team you're thinking about, at our Mercedes team, at the Vodafone Mercedes aarava Archer Racing team. So there we are. We negotiate the contract with Alfa Romeo and we steal him away mid-season. And with our HQ facilities added on, George Russell is a 99 rated driver for us. going on for the rest of this season. Now, Hamilton was 100 rated, remember, because he was in such bad form, it meant nothing. But remember, when we had Pierre Gasly in our team, he was 98 or 99 rated, and he genuinely, remember how genuinely fast he was in our car in the last season. So I am actually very eagerly anticipating how quick Russell may be in our machinery. Hamilton, I must say, doesn't actually get dropped off the grid. He just goes the other way, and Alfa Romeo sign him. So I think this, more than any of the other factors that we've seen from Hamilton's very poor performances in the last seasons, him actually accepting an offer for Alfa Romeo, I think shows that him as an AI here in this career mode save, he is very much on the last stint of his career. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires out of our career mode save now at the end of this season. We'll have to see about that and check the emails. But there we are then. This is our brand new team going forward for the rest of Season 6. Myself and a 99 rated George Russell. It is very exciting to have him in the team, and I'm now very much looking forward to, for next episode, having a late charge and resurgence for our team as a whole to take the fight to Ferrari and Mercedes for the Constructors' Championship. And I don't know, it depends on how quick he is, but he may even give us a good run for our money in the races as well, and be a bit of a nuisance maybe for us whilst we're battling Leclerc in the championship. But that's what comes with having a great teammate. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. Be sure to smash that like button if you are. Let me know in the comments below what you make of it. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.